Mass formation, mass hypnosis begins with traumas done on a mass scale. You might think that just means something like 9/11. No. Or, somebody shooting up a school. No. Not that those aren't traumas, but those are the big traumas, but there's the continual other ones. COVID, then the COVID variants, then the possible Ebola, then Alpha, all the, what was it, not Alpha, but they had all the Greek letter names for the different variants. Everybody's heard them. There's so many of them, that you have to be worried about this variant and that variant. And now, oh, they might have polio in the water in New York. And then at the same time, oh, and Putin's talking about nuking. And then up, you got to worry because China, they're trying to take over America. So all of this was designed for one purpose, because given, and they've done this throughout our history, everybody's history. They know this is why the CIA, and even going before them, did so many studies, but unethical, on mind control, and how to break the mind and cause splitting. So you have enough traumas, and the person will dissociate, and most people don't even realize that they've dissociated. Most people don't even realize that they have free floating anxiety. Yes, it's something else that Matthias Desmet talks about, is free floating anxiety. It's sort of like there's this anxiety, but you can't tie it to anything. You don't know what it's going to. I think most every person in the world has that. And some even worse than, but free floating anxiety is pretty bad enough. But everybody has it. They've just become conditioned to having it. Um, and then over time, people become just conditioned to, oh, there's another virus, oh, there's another shooting. And they create this. They do. They create it. They create the shootings because that will go towards their goal of trying to get rid of guns. That's what they've always done. Um, and this all goes along with your Communist Manifesto agenda. You have to break the family up. They've been doing that for a long time. That's the reason they're pushing so hard on the kids being allowed, children being allowed to decide what gender they are, kids being allowed to decide if they want to have sex with an adult. Um, that is all to destroy the family. You destroy the nuclear family, which, is a term going way back, but it's that, the mother, father, the family network, because that's a strong network. That's the foundation of America. So communists have to destroy that. So your feminist movement came in for that. Now you can hate me for that, but that's the truth. They wanted to get women out of the house back to work. It was easier to take kids then. Latchkey kids are easy kids to snatch up. So they, convinced women, this is your right, this is your right. Well, you can see right now they don't care about women's rights. They don't, because there's a bunch of men that are saying they're women and they think they're talking for me, but it's like, no, no, it's disrespectful. It's outright disrespectful. But that's I mean, I don't even care about that stuff. That's the least of it. But all of those little things that they're doing is to destroy the country. So I talk a lot about the professional organizations and the unions, and most especially in my profession, nursing, right? Because they're tied with the UN. They're tied with all of that then. They are, because their goal, at least the people at the top of that, is to destroy America and force us into that global agenda. So the way this system works is there has to be, some big fears, and then they give you a little bit of rest, okay? Really, with COVID, there wasn't a lot of rest because, at least in your blue states, they kept it going. Pritzker kept milking it for all it was worth. You got to stay locked down, and just, and many other states did this. The minute you start giving so much power to the people that are in office, it's really no matter who it is, no matter what side of the aisle, it's a big mistake because they won't let go of it. They won't. That's why, at least I was always taught you never want to relinquish power to the people you're supposed to be. I mean, the people are supposed to be governing. They're supposed to do what we say, but they don't. They don't. That's clear. They have their own agenda, but they've been on that agenda for a long time. And the number one thing they use for that agenda is fear. Is to cause uncertainty and to cause people to just be like, God, this world just is so horrible. It is horrible because of the people that are running it, because they cause all this. They don't and yet this is why I can't stand this. When I see it, it drives me crazy. When I see this, be kind, just be kind. It's like, shut up, just be quiet. Because that side is also responsible for that. This be kind. I'm not trying to tell people not to be kind. What I'm trying to say is it's a bunch of bullshit. It would be a kinder world if the people controlling everything were not in their positions anymore. But in order for that to happen, the American people have to stop believing everything they're told, because much of it has been a lie. And honestly, if you do have any common sense, and I don't think you do until you become awake, but then you would realize, yeah, there's a lot of things that don't make sense. And then once you're awake, you realize how what I'm saying is true. So if you saw them do this with COVID, there was one variant after another. They had already terrified people to the point where they didn't want to be around their families. So it worked for their agenda there. You would, because people wouldn't be around their families. There was a bunch of fights that took place. A bunch of people looking like fools fighting with others in stores over masks, and that those people at the top that are watching all that, they just laugh their asses off because they create it. They do. They know that pushing that fear, pushing that agenda is what they need. So that's, I said a long time ago, stop being afraid. Just stop being afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of. Just stop being afraid. And recognize that the people that are controlling this are doing this stuff on purpose. And yes, that means your three-letter agencies. They're no good. No good. Clearly, if you have any sense at all, you realize how corrupt the CDC, HHS, CDC, all of them are. The CDC was involved with controlling what people could post on Twitter, and they were involved with tracking your phone. Yes, they wanted to know where people were going. And Verizon and two other, there was Verizon, T-Mobile, and one other one that got on board with them and gave them over that data so they would know where people were at. Because you know how in some states you couldn't even go to the park? Yeah, like Lori Lightfoot was arresting people because they took their kids to the park. I mean, this is the kind of trash that is in control of this country because of those people at the top. They're the surrogates doing the bidding for them. That's why they're out of their minds. They're just not stable people, period. But neither are the people at the top. So that's what they do. You will continue to hear the CDC and the news, which they're just as culpable, push their fear of this virus, this variant, now Ebola, the next pandemic, the next flu season. You have to get this injection. You have to go for this medical treatment. You have to do this and that. And it gets old. That's why I don't do annual treatments. I just don't do it. That stuff they tell you to do every year. No. We have more of that testing shit than we do actually cures and solutions. We do. If you're awake, you see that. I think that people that are awake really that have sat back and thought, yeah, this is something I never thought about before, but it's true. We don't have any cure. There's no cures at all. They'll tell you that these are cures. They're not. Because then when they decide to, they say, oh, it's come back. It's come back because you haven't done what you're supposed to do, or because one kid in the world didn't get it, or yeah, it was all nonsense anyway. Yeah, because it was always a tool to use to control the masses. And to control the masses, it first starts, there's many steps, several steps, I should say, not many, but several. And the first step that's needed is cause fear. Give a little rest and then create some more fear. And if you watch the news, any of them, alternative or otherwise, they're all the same, the networks, even the alternative ones, you will see how they are all doing the fear mongering, all doing the bidding for the top.